I also want to just extend a very warm best wishes to the Moyes family this morning, and Ian's here this morning with Gordon and Natalie, and the rest of the family is going through it's not an easy transition. David was a huge part of this community, and so we're still waiting to hear when the news will be for the memorial service and celebration of David's life. But keep tuned to that and know that we're holding you all in our hearts and our prayers big time. So I've been focusing on a series of reflections over the summer, dealing with different paths and ways in which we can become more tuned in to the presence of the great spirit, the great reality that we call God. And we've talked about different spiritual paths that actually lead us closer to God over the summer. We've talked about the path of devotion and the path of knowledge and the path of beauty and so on. And this Sunday, I want to speak with you about the path of meditation. Now, you all know that meditation has been a huge part of my life. I've spoken about it before, but it's also a very distinct spiritual path. I've been meditating since I was a teenager, and I first started meditating with a candle and a little cross in my room, and I'd light the candle and I'd sit down and I'd focus on the intersection between the 2 points of the cross, the vertical and the horizontal, and sort of focus on that as the heart of God. I've been meditating for many years. But when I was starting to meditate, that was back in the 60s, and that was when meditation was coming from the East, and it was all the rage. And so you had Hindi gurus and masters who were teaching, and Zen gurus and masters who were teaching meditation in the West. And it was all very esoteric and exotic at that time when we were learning how to meditate initially. But over the years, and as I went to seminary, I discovered that meditation has been a huge and important component of the Christian faith tradition all the way back to the beginning as well. And today, meditation has totally gone mainstream. It's no longer the private kind of arena for churches or spiritual groups. Corporate executives are learning how to meditate. They're teaching meditation in schools. All the yoga classes are teaching meditation as well. So meditation has gone really mainstream. And yet, it's important to recognize that even though meditation has gone mainstream, and there are many components to meditation that enable it to go really mainstream and to be part of our secular culture, its origins are have profoundly spiritual roots. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit with you this morning. The first thing we always have to distinguish is that prayer and meditation are two different disciplines. In the Bible, we have Jesus talking more specifically, and he instructs his disciples in the process of prayer. And I always like to think that perhaps one of the ways in which Jesus would have instructed his disciples in prayer is with this following little story. This is the way Jesus taught his disciples to pray. There were two young farmers still, who had just had adjoining farms, and one of the young farmers was showing his neighboring farmer a new bull that he had, and he took him out into the field, and he was showing him some of the cows, and all of a sudden one of the bulls saw red, and he got really aggressive. And this bull put his horns down, and he put his, he was all tangled up in fists, and he started charging at these two farmers, and they took off like a bat out of where across the field, and bulls catching up on them, and the one guy yells out to the other guy, he says, "He's catching up on us. There's nothing we're going to be able to do. We're toast. Say a prayer." And the other guy says, "I don't know any prayers." He says, "Well, any prayer will do." And the other farmer says, "Well, the only prayer I can remember is the one that my father taught me when we would have supper. Lord, for what I'm about to receive, make me truly grateful." Right. Jesus taught his disciples to pray using words, to talk to God in situations of crisis, to invoke divine guidance, to invite God's help and assistance in difficult times of life, but also to invoke blessings, to ask God for blessings in their life too. Jesus said those things. Although he did tell his disciples not to ask for frivolous things, he invited his disciples into a form of verbal prayer. It's what I call verbal prayer, talk prayer. It's the prayer in which we sort of ask God, talk to God about stuff, and ask God for stuff, right? But that is different from the process of meditation. And it's clear that Jesus, although that's all we have recorded from Jesus in terms of how he taught prayer, that Jesus actually used other forms of meditation that are more in keeping with what we think of as in meditation as in today's world. Jesus would often go out into the wilderness, and the Bible stories tell us that he spent a great deal of time in silence and in solitude. And meditation is really a process not so much of engaging the mind and talking to God about this, that, and the other thing. Meditation is really a process of learning to become deeply still and silent and peaceful within ourselves. We've talked about this before many times, right? But the key form of meditation that's being taught out there in the secular world today is a form of meditation that's called mindfulness. Have any of you heard of the word mindfulness? And you've heard of mindfulness meditation, mindfulness training, and whatnot. What being mindful, meditation is a form of becoming mindful of what? It's becoming mindful of ourselves. It's becoming mindful, aware of the reality of our lives. And the reality of our lives is that so much of the time, so much of our inner lives and our mental lives is totally distracted. We are distracted. We are caught up in forms of this, of one sort or another, all the time, okay? What does this consist of? What are some of the things that this consists of in our lives? It's worry, it's fear, it's anger, it's sorrow, it's sadness, it's jealousy. It's a whole variety of different things. And what mindfulness training leads us into is it helps us to become mindful of how much of our lives are like this all the time, right? And what mindfulness training does is it teaches us, it enables us to learn to relax from this. And did you notice when your fists are really clenched? Did you notice it is hard to relax them, right? They become set in a posture, and when it's to just learn to open up, it's like there's muscle memory there that just locks it into place, and it's hard. And so when it's the same thing with emotional patterns and mental structures in our minds and in our hearts. Emotional patterns and mental patterns are also they're resistant to change. And so what mindfulness training does, and this is why I was saying do this with the kids a little bit too, it's actually a learning to focus attention on breath and becoming aware of all the emotional states and the mental states within yourself and learning to just relax them. Learning just to relax them and let them go. And of course, what happens here is what? When you do that, when you learn that kind of relaxation, what begins to happen? You become a little more peaceful. You become a little more settled internally. You become a little bit more just relaxed. When you're like this, your body is producing all sorts of chemical kinds of signals and elements in your body too that are unhealthy. So when you learn to do all of this too, the body stops producing some of those chemicals that are harmful to the body. And it actually leads to some physical well-being too. I've talked with you about this mindfulness meditation 10-day retreat that I was on earlier in the year, and what a profound healing impact that had on my immune system? Well, it's a well-known thing. When you start to become much more peaceful inwardly, much more relaxed inwardly, you learn to release those tight, obstructed emotional and mental and physical states, and you become more settled and peaceful. Donald Trump could use a really big dose of mindfulness training, right? He really, really needs it desperately. And just think if Donald Trump engaged in a form of mindfulness training every day, you wouldn't get half of all those Twitter notices that he's always putting out, right? And the whole world. You can see, though, right, how that kind of stressed out, whacked out kind of mind in the heart of a politician like the President of the United States messes up the whole world. You know? So when we start to just relax and release all that kind of mental craziness and stress in our lives and in our bodies, that starts to have a ripple effect in the lives around us. We're less reactive to our loved ones, to our friends, our colleagues. We generate less tension and craziness in the world around us, and that makes it a better place. But all of that being good is not fundamentally where Jesus went with meditation. And it doesn't reflect at the deepest level the spiritual profundity of meditation. Okay? When Jesus went into meditation, it was about more than simply becoming relaxed and peaceful and serene. What meditation is intended to do at its deepest spiritual levels is to lead us into an intuitive awareness and grasp of the deep spiritual roots and the spiritual essence that is at the heart of life. You know, the psalmist, Monica shared, and that was a beautiful reading of Psalm 138 that Monica shared. It was very meditative, right? The psalmist talks about, where is God? If I look to the farthest reaches of the east, God is there. If I look into the west, God is there. God is. So we always say, God is everywhere. God is here. You know, God is not just up in heaven or down in hell or in our hearts. God permeates all of existence and reality. All of reality is a manifestation of the divine. God is right here. And that's why I was trying to teach the children. When you breathe, if you can learn to breathe in God and start to be sensitive to it, I'm not just breathing in air, I'm also breathing in divine energy. I'm breathing in the presence of the divine. That starts to set up a deeper awareness within you. Jesus says, so there was this person who found a treasure in the field, and it was the ultimate treasure, he says. When he found that treasure, he went and sold everything that he had. He sold his other fields, sold all his possessions, and he bought that field. And he says it's the same like a merchant for pearls, who when he or she finds the perfect pearl, will sell all the rest of their inventory and purchase that one pearl. What is Jesus referring to? We know that what Jesus was referring to in those passages is the realm of heaven. Jesus was saying that the realm of God it's in our lives. It's not separate from life. It's something that's part of life. But we're not aware of it. We don't know where it is. But every now and again, we can find it and we can touch it, and then we realize, oh my goodness, I have found the jackpot here. This is what life is ultimately all about. God isn't some person up in the sky. And you know, a lot of our past devotional kinds of forms of prayer and whatnot are as though to God is this person, right? And we fall in love with God as a person. But God isn't a person. God is the divine matrix. He is this spiritual essence out of which all of life comes into being, and that holds all of life together, and of which each and every one of us is a manifestation. And so what happens as we start to become a little more settled and still within ourselves, okay? This is what happens. We become a little bit more peaceful. We become a little bit more relaxed. We become a little less distracted. We become a little more mindful. And as we become a little bit more still and serene and relaxed within ourselves, what begins to happen is that we begin to see flashes. We begin to experience glimpses. We begin to grasp an intuitive sense of the ultimate oneness and power and energy, which is ultimately great mystery, that gives birth to all of existence. So you might be walking down the street one day in a meditative space, and you see the panhandler beside the road. And all of a sudden, as you look at the panhandler, you have this intuitive flash that you and that panhandler are one and the same person. That you and that panhandler come from one and the same life. That panhandler and you are not separate. You are actually one and the same at the deepest level. And what does that do within you? When you get that intuitive flash and grasp that that panhandler is at the deepest level part of you, is part of and derives from the singular underlying essence that gives life to all of this, that gives birth to compassion and love. That's the source of compassion and love, when we recognize the oneness that we share with everyone and with everything. Or I use this example many times for you too. You know, you're often when you're on a camping trip, or you're out in the wilderness, or you're walking and you're on a beautiful Nova Scotia beach somewhere, and perhaps it's a sunset or a sunrise, and it's one of those moments when the whole world seems very still, and the stillness in the exterior world contributes to a stillness within your own being. And in that stillness, all of a sudden you feel kind of an emotional sort of thing, and there's no sense of separation. There's no sense of disconnect. You feel totally at home in the world, in the universe, and you know that you belong. There's that sense of continuity and oneness between you and everything around you. And nature is one of those profound places where this happens, I think, most frequently with people. That is what the spiritual traditions note as an experience of God. That's an experience of divinity. It's not some guy talking, up in the sky talking to you and saying, hey, I think you should go out and buy a new car, or even, hey, this is what's going on. Maybe you might. We have traditionally thought about God in that way, and that's a part of the journey. But the real experience, if you explore that too much, you're going to become schizophrenic, right? God isn't a person taking you on a trip or going to visit you personally or that sort of thing. The real divine experience is starting to experience this profound sense of integration, unity, and oneness with everyone and everything. And it's that oneness, that unity, that is the power and the mystery and the source that we call God. Now, here's the thing. Jesus was born with this profound capacity to be in touch with, to intuit, and to sense the divine presence. Jesus had this profound kind of connectivity and awareness of that underlying essence and reality that we call spirit, the divine, God, for want of a better term. He was born with it. And that's what all the stories in the Bible talk about, the virgin birth and everything else. They're all stories that are indicated to say how special he was. He was born in a remarkable kind of way. So we're not going to have that kind of continuous kind of sense of connectivity to the divine, that sense of being part of God and one with God all the time that Jesus had. But you know what? Even little glimpses of it. How many of you have had a glimpse of what I'm talking about today? Even little glimpses and experiences of that start to deepen our appreciation for the goodness and the beauty of life. Even little occasional experiences of that start to transform our life. They pull us forward. They lead us to see the world from a new kind of perspective. And they unlock a capacity for love and compassion in our lives. The compassion and love that then goes out and makes a difference in the world. So, meditation is a good thing. Even if it starts with just learning how to relax, become a little more peaceful, become a little de-stressed, do it. Get on the bandwagon. It's a good bandwagon. There's lots of pros and cons out there, and some people, oh, meditation is all a pile of horse manure, and other people, and it's all very self-centered and everything else. When you start to understand the deeper spiritual significance of meditation, of that stilling, relaxing, becoming peaceful within yourself, when you start to recognize the deeper implications of that and how that can then lead to these intuitions of the deeper essence in which we live our lives, then you recognize this is a profound and important part of the spiritual journey in life. I say this to you every Sunday, and I say it to you out of the recognition that the Spirit in me indeed resides in each of you. The Spirit in me honors the Spirit in you, the capacity to shine through each and every one of you as an agent of profound love and compassion for the world. Namaste, B.U.C. Amen.
I thought that it would happen to anyone but me. I never dreamed that I would carry this heavy burden on my knees. I never thought that I'd be standing just where I stand today. I've never known this kind of heartbreak. I've never felt this kind of pain, but you're still God. When my eyes have cried a million tears, you're still God. When my last hope has disappeared, you're still God, and I know you'll make a way somehow. You're still God, and you're holding me right now. My heart can't find the answer for the reason for this trial, but God, I know your ways are perfect, and you've been watching all the while. For to me you've proven faithful time and time again, and I'm learning now to trust you more, even when I don't understand. You're still God. When my eyes have cried a million tears, you're still God. When my last hope has disappeared, you're still God. still God. Yes, I know you'll make a way somehow. You're still God, and you're holding us right now.
So for this morning's prayer of community, where we talked about meditation, I thought that would be a good way to put our prayers together. And I'm also sitting down here so we can meditate instead of focusing on a person standing up front. We can kind of focus on the disembodied voice. So I'll ask that you close your eyes as we combine prayer and imagination, the essence of meditation. Let's start from within. Think of your heart. Hear it beat. A rhythm that represents your soul. Feel it send life through your body. Listen to it sing the story, the song of you. This rhythm is set by God who gave you life, who lives within you. A lullaby, a ballad, a dirge, a hosanna, a song that feeds your soul, body, and mind. This song, like any song, is meant to be shared. Imagine the musical notes on a beam of light shining out from your heart to others. Imagine a friend. Imagine a loved one in need. Send the song to them. See the beam of energy connect with their heart. Watch the glow of your song embrace them. Feel the energy of the Creator flow through you and heal their pain. Physical ailments like cancer and sickness shy away from the light of the song. Deeper emotional pains like hatred, fear, and racism are obliterated by the oneness of spirit. Compassion and unity are emboldened, magnified by our desire for justice. The song grows louder as more voices join in. See the beam of light grow brighter as it travels from each sister to brother, to friend to foe. Each time it reaches a new person, it splinters and spreads even more, creating beautiful harmonies, warming, connecting. The traditions of our native peoples tell us that we are not the only conduits for this spirit. Watch as the beams of song go out into nature. These ancestral Mi'kmaq lands on which we stand welcome the light of song. The trees reach out for the light and share it with the wind by swaying playfully. The wind carries the song to the sea, and the waves carry the crescendo upon our shore. Our heart song is one with the wind. It is heard on the ocean shores and in the bubbling brook. Take a step further. Bring yourself beyond the clouds to the edge of our planet. Look down at that beautiful blue marble and see the web of light we have followed. The connections between family, community, nature, and God are so numerous that the earth glows like a point of energy ready to explode into creation. Imagine a universe founded on the spirit of love and unity. Only you don't have to imagine. This is our universe, beating to God's rhythm, singing creation into being. Open your eyes. Look around you. See, perhaps for the first time, the song of the universe before your eyes. The spirit in you is the spirit in me. Namaste.
Let's stand together as we sing hymn 382, Breathe on Me, Breath of God. Breathe on me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew, that I may love what thou dost love, and do what thou wouldst do. Breathe on me, breath of God, until my heart is pure, until our love is one with thine, to do and to endure. Breathe on me, breath of God, till I am wholly thine, until this earthly part of me glows with thy fire divine. Breathe on me, breath of God, so shall I never die, but live with me the perfect life of thine eternity.
Meditation speaks to being still, which is not really easy to do in every day. We can find the time maybe at the end of the day or at church, but we try and think of, well, how can I meditate? How can I be still through the day? I heard an interview earlier this week with James Corden. He does the Late Late Show, does the carpool karaoke, and somebody said, well, you do your show every night, you do these clips and videos that you make for YouTube, he's starring in movies, he does interviews, how do you find the time to do all that and raise 2 children? And he said, well, I've actually found a very easy way. It's that I'm only ever in one thing. In the moment that I'm in this interview right now, I'm not thinking about those other things. I am being the best interview subject I can be. And when I leave here, I'm going to go over to the Late Show, and I'm going to be the best boss and the best host that I can be. And then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to be the best father that I can be. So meditation doesn't necessarily always need to be still, but it needs to be in the moment. The quote that was in here from Winnie the Pooh, I thought was actually great. What day is it? Asked Pooh. It's today, squeaked Piglet. My favorite day, said Pooh. Go enjoy every day and be your best in every moment. Amen.
Bread for the journey, food for the day, cup of God's blessing, tomorrow, today. Have a great week. God bless you.